Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, when I start this lesson off, and giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to your apostles and elders, a great milestone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently pushing the word in sincerity and in faith, and Shalom to all the sincere believers. Now, this lesson is going to be based on, or it's going to be an update about the earthquake death toll in Myanmar. So through the Spirit, I'm going to read this article, get some precepts, and the Lord's will, you're edified. It says Myanmar earthquake death toll passes 3,300 as UN calls for help. The death toll from a major earthquake in Myanmar has risen above 3,300 as the United Nations aid chief made a renewed call for the world to help the disaster-struck nation. The magnitude 7.7 quake that struck the Southeast Asian nation on March 28th resulted in 3,354 deaths and 4,508 people injured, with 220 others missing, according to new figures published by state media on Saturday. The United Nations top aid official met with victims in the central Myanmar city of Mandalay, situated close to the epicenter, and now grappling with severe damage across the city, and described the destruction as staggering. The world must rally behind the people of Myanmar, Tom Fletcher wrote in a post on X. He praised humanitarian and community groups who led the response to the quake with courage, skill, and determination. Said many themselves lost everything and yet kept heading out to support survivors. Said the new toll was announced after the country's military government chief, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, returned from a rare foreign trip to a regional summit in Bangkok on Friday, where he met with leaders including the prime ministers of Thailand and India. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi called for a post-quake ceasefire in Myanmar's civil war to be made permanent, and said the elections needed to be inclusive and credible, an Indian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said on Friday. China, Russia, and India were among the first countries to provide support, sending rescue teams to Myanmar to help locate survivors. The United States has traditionally been at the forefront of international disaster relief, but President Donald Trump has dismantled the country's humanitarian aid agency. Washington said on Friday it was adding $7 million on top of an earlier $2 million in assistance to Myanmar, but added it was unfair to expect the nation to keep leading humanitarian relief around the world. Since overthrowing the elected civilian government of Noble Aung San Suu Kyi in 2021, the military has struggled to run Myanmar, leaving the economy and basic services, including healthcare, in tatters, a situation exacerbated by the March 28th earthquake. The UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights said on Friday the military government was restricting aid supplies to quake-hit areas where communities did not back its rule. The UN office said it was investigating 53 reported attacks by the military against opponents, including airstrikes, of which 16 happened after the ceasefire was declared on Wednesday. Yeah, so it's just non-stop judgment going on out there. First it was the earthquake, and now certain areas, can't really get help. Because, they, I guess they voted a certain way, so So, they're being blocked from getting supplies. There's so much death out there, and people need food and all of that after these type of disasters. It's just, but the Lord is just piling it on. You know, like it says in Psalm 79:6, pour out thy wrath upon the heathen that have not known thee, and upon the kingdoms that have not called upon thy name. And what's happening out there in Myanmar is the judgment of the Lord. That's his wrath being poured upon those people out there. Psalms 9:16, the Lord Yahweh is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hand. Hegayon Selah. And the Heavenly Father brought that earthquake, that major 7.7 earthquake that resulted in all of that death and destruction and chaos that's going on out there currently. Isaiah 29:6, thou shalt be visited of the Lord Yahweh of hosts with thunder, and with earthquake, and great noise, with storm and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire. And they got those people out there in Myanmar, and I believe it's also parts of Thailand. They got hit with that 7.7 earthquake. And that was the Lord visiting them. 2 Ezra 8:50, for many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. And the Lord unleashing, these earthquakes and these fires and these storms and tempests, and having wars pop off. On top of that, there's power outages and there's famines, and it's just nonstop things happening all throughout the world. And this is the Lord's judgment, because all of these different nations, these different people, they've been wicked. Practicing witchcraft, worshiping false gods, eating abominable foods, participating in abominable sexual acts, just doing all sorts of things that are not pleasing in the eyes of the Lord, things that are not righteous in the eyes of the Lord. And now the Lord is bringing judgment upon them. 2 Ezra 9:1, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before. Verse 2, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Verse 3, therefore when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, and there are plenty of both. There are plenty of earthquakes happening and uproars of the people in the form of protest. Yesterday here in Babylon, aka America, there were protests happening all over the country because people are pissed off with what Donald Trump is doing. Not that it makes a difference, because Donald Trump is only doing what the Lord put the Spirit on him to do. Verse 4, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. Verse 4. Verse 5, for like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. Verse 6, even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonder, and powerful works, and endings in effects and signs. And these earthquakes, and these power outages, and these wars, and the famines, and the storms and tempests, and the fires, these are all signs of the Lord. These are all his works. These are all his signs. These are all his judgments being brought upon the earth. Luke 21:22, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. And we are clearly living in the days of vengeance. That's why all these things that are written in the scriptures are coming to pass. The love of many waxing cold, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, the fires, the storms, the tempests, the earthquakes, the famines, all of these things are coming to pass. This is the vengeance, this is the wrath, this is the judgment of the Heavenly Father being brought upon the earth for the continual wickedness of all these people. Isaiah 48:22, there is no peace, saith the Lord Yahweh unto the wicked. And that's why the judgments just keep coming. It seems like there is no breathing room, It's just one earthquake after another, one round of storms and tempest after another, one fire after another. Was in regards to these wars, these wars go on, and then there's a ceasefire, and then not even a week later, the two sides are at war all over again, Like there really is no peace. It's just constant judgment. And it's just going to get worse and worse, and there's going to be more destruction and more death and more chaos and more misery upon the earth. And the only ones who are going to be protected from these things are those who fear the Lord, who fear Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, and are fervently and diligently and daily, rehearsing the righteous acts, following the laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of their ability, watching, reading, praying. Those are the ones that the Lord is going to protect. The rest of these people, they're going to continue to suffer and be punished because everything that they're doing just angers the Lord. And at the end of the day, everyone has to reap what they've sown. If you're being wicked, you're going to get punished. If you're being righteous and if you've been chosen by the Lord, then you're going to get saved. It all really is that simple when you get down to the bottom of it. But we are living in the days of vengeance, and we are living in the last days. So as these judgments increase, no one should be surprised. At least not those of us of the hopeful elect who know what's going on and who know why these judgments are taking place. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakudash, the Wadi Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to our brothers who are fervently pushing the word in sincerity and in faith, and shalom to all the sincere believers. Hope you stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, and Adawan Ratazah. Till next time, shalom.